Hello my fellow presenters. Okay, in this video I want to discuss a recent news item which hit the headlines worldwide and was discussed as a potential policy to help young people stay afloat and give them a heads up in life, particularly as we hear a lot about how younger generations are struggling, their futures look uncertain, not able to get on the property ladder. But also watch to the end of the video because I'm also going to talk about what I think would be the best solution. Okay, so this is what's been discussed.
Now, Portugal is proposing offering young workers a decade of progressive tax breaks, including paying nothing at all in their first year of work as a means to stop highly trained workers from emigrating.
Well, should Britain consider a similar scheme to encourage young people to stay here in the UK and also tackle challenges like student debt and getting on the housing ladder?
This, of course, is an idea borrowed from Portugal. The government there plans to exempt 18 to 35-year-olds earning up to the equivalent of £23,500 a year from paying any tax at all in their first year of work. And then from year 2 onwards, their tax exemption will gradually decrease. But in all, they'll end up with a whole decade of tax breaks. And the idea behind it is to keep young talent right there in Portugal. However, of course, it comes with a hefty price tag of £537 million a year. But you might think that the big bill is worth paying just to give the younger generation a leg up in life. Or maybe you think they should pay taxes just like everyone else.
Under the scheme, which forms part of the country's 2025 budget, young people earning up to €28,000, so £23,500 a year, would have 100% tax exemption in the first year of work, dropping to 75% to the second to the fourth year. That's a lot of years of big tax breaks, 50% between the 5th and the 7th, and 25% from the 8th to the 10th year. So there's a lot there, and it's something that, according to this government, the Portuguese government, the move could help 350,000 to 400,000 young people. The average salary of a young person in Portugal is €20,000. So that's a way that they can really target and bolster their income. I think this might surprise you because I like to talk about politics here on my channel, because I think it's important that we are politically active and that we speak up for our rights as self-employed people. The thing that I feel, and this is what I think is going to surprise people, I'm actually against this. I'm all for helping the younger generations, and I will often be the first person to plead the plight of the younger generation and just sort of how unfair a lot of things are in the climate and things are stacked up against young people. But whilst I applaud the sentiment of this, I don't think that this is the right way to go about helping young people for a number of reasons. So this is something that's been debated on a lot of shows as something that would be here. Firstly, I think it's important to realise that this is not something that's on the cards anytime soon. Let's point that out. There is so much talk of tax cuts, certainly not any tax breaks in the upcoming budget. But the reason I'm against this is because it's been cited that this could help young people get on the property ladder and help them save and build their pension. But what I would say to that is you don't necessarily know that young people are or that every young person is in the best frame of mind to really receive and understand that, okay, this is how you build towards your future. They don't have a lot of financial education. There's a lack of financial education in schools. So they're not necessarily in the best place to be given that opportunity at that point in their life. That's not something that we know about for every young person. They might be like, right, I want to have a great few nights out here, I might go traveling. And I'm not opposed to traveling. I wish I traveled more, and I hope to travel a lot more. But I think that because I think traveling, you get a lot of great opportunity and outlook and perspective when you see more of the world. The other thing is, I think it's important that young people feel vested in the system that they're paying into with their taxes. And I think that this is by young people paying taxes, they start to feel like, okay, I want to say in how my government runs. It helps to encourage political mobility, and I think that's really something that we need. Something else that I want to point out about this scheme that I don't like about the way that it's presented is this idea that it's only for people that are 18 to 35. Because what that again does, it means is that a generation goes without that could have really benefited from this.
My issue with this is not that young people shouldn't be helped. It's that for me, people who are 35 to 50 seem to be forgotten completely in this, right? So I'm 42. I'm struggling. Our rents are very high. We can't afford to buy a house. Yet again, we have a divisive suggestion where people who are born at a certain time get help and other people don't. And I think we need to deal with the elephant in the room here. And
What is the elephant?
in the room.
Which particular
People are
elephant?
people are underpaid, people are struggling to get work, and houses are wildly overpriced and rents are unchecked. That is a problem no matter what your age is.
Then if that's the elephant, I think that's become something that we all know
But rather than
and have been
sticking
sort of
plaster
forced
it-
to accept because
What I'm
nothing's
saying
ever
is-
happening to alleviate the problem, is
What
it?
I'm saying is we're sticking plastering it with these ideas for different policies when actually what we need is a referendum or some, where actually the country decides as a whole that actually all the house prices in the country need to be halved.
Also, I think we focus too much on a criteria-based society. I'm very conscious that when I'm doing these videos, for example, yes, it might be disproportionately younger people, but there might also be older people that want a new lease of life, that are moving to the city. Perhaps they were a carer before in their circumstance, so they delayed their career move. Perhaps they had health problems, or they had certain other commitments, or just in a different place in life. So I think these kind of blanket policies, whilst they might seem easier at times, they're not the way forward. And that's why I'm really against that. I mean, I've spoken before about how I benefited from these kind of 18 to 25 schemes to kind of get involved with theatre and the arts around London. But equally, I was very critical of the way that they had this 25-year-old cut-off point, because there are people that would live outside for a bit, save up at home before moving back into London, and suddenly they're not eligible. So I think we need to get past this 18 to 35 or these kind of age brackets and think about where people are in their life and on their life journey, and just do better, basically. What I actually think we should do is revise the lifetime ISA. This is going to be what I think the solution is. So what is the lifetime ISA? The ISA is an allowance of money that you can put away each year after you've paid your taxes. If you put away up to £4,000 a year, the government will top that up by 20%, so you can get up to £1,000 every year. Now, you can only withdraw this money once you buy a house, often under a certain limit. I think it's something like £450,000, and that's something that's worried a lot of people, because what if it's somewhere that you buy is just over the limit and you're stuck in such a way, particularly in London, that can be quite common, and it can be higher if you buy in a couple. So that's one big problem with the system. So you can withdraw it if you buy something, or after you're 60, and you can redeem it as part of a pension. Now, this is something which Martin Lewis and many others have talked about as being a flaw, because in case you need to withdraw the money sooner, and we know that as self-employed people, we're often going to need to withdraw money sooner. Perhaps we want to invest in our business. Perhaps we want to invest in something for our future, like a buy-to-let property, to help us on our way towards becoming a homeowner. Whatever it is that we need to do, it's a long time to lock money away. If you do end up having to withdraw from it early without any of those two reasons, then you end up having to pay not a 20% penalty, which is the proportion that the government's topped it up by, but 25%. And that means you can actually end up with less money than what you put in. It's potentially a great system because you're investing in something which can accumulate in a kind of stocks and shares way. It can gain interest either on a cash rate or on a stocks and shares lifetime ISA, which I would certainly advocate for, not a financial advisor. But what I think we should do with this system here is revise it so that you don't have the penalty, but also that we give tax relief. Because at the moment, you get tax relief if you pay into a pension, but that's locked away until you're like 57. But I think we should allow young people to lock money away, where they're allowed to then withdraw that money, similar like in a lifetime ISA, if they're going to invest in something or invest in a business, or invest in or just have it as their pension if they want to, but not be subject to that money being locked away. They should be allowed to use it, because another thing is, by having money in a lifetime ISA, a lot of people are making themselves vulnerable to the sense that if they've got any kind of savings, the lifetime ISA or any money they have in an ISA counts. If they fall on hard times and they need to claim universal credit, they need to claim any kind of state benefit or support, they're not entitled to any of that. And if they are, it's severely dwindled, because any kind of capital you have, I think particularly after £6,000, your entitlement heavily depreciates. So they're taking a risk with the state as well, and we want less people to be needed to be supported by the state. So we should be encouraging that, and I think the way to do that is to allow tax relief for young people, where it can go either towards their first home, or they can access it so they can access it early, or it can go towards their pension. A lot of people need to be encouraged to kind of save for their future, but there now needs to be flexibility where that future can be either for a pension or be for buying a home, and hopefully they'll get to have a mix of both. But this is an issue that's been spoken about a lot with people like Robert Peston, the ITV News political editor, on his podcast that he's done, and many others have spoken about this, because we're facing a pensions crisis. I've spoken about this before on the channel, and I think this is the kind of policy young people need. If I had access to this kind of policy, I would have thought, oh, do you know what? I'm going to put money away, I'm going to save tax, but also I'm going to have that in stocks and shares and really allow that to grow. And I know that I can use that either towards my first property, if I'm able to get one, or I can just make sure that I've got a comfortable retirement as can be, based on what I'm doing for work and what I'm earning. So that's really the policy suggestion I would have instead. And that way you ring fence a policy for young people that makes sure it goes towards something for their future. It's not something that they can just blow on a spending spree. And I think, in fairness, what needs to happen with that money that's put away, if young people do fall on hard times, they should still have access to welfare support. Because I think people that pay into pensions but don't have any savings, they're not made to kind of access their pensions, and I think the same thing should apply here. So that's my suggestion. That's what I think we should do. What do you guys think about this? Do you think that we should have a policy like this, or do you think that no, we just can't afford it, or do you think we need to be thinking about young people in the future? I'd love to know your thoughts. I'm glad that this was something that was at least being discussed or debated, because we do need to think about ways we can help young people with their future. There's a lot of focus at the moment on the winter fuel allowance and our pensioners, but actually our pension age keeps being pushed further and further away. Pension now is being seen as a benefit. I think it might even be means tested in our lifetime. I think it will certainly be a fraction of what it was. And I think so much of that is just sort of up in the air, especially in terms of its sustainability. So let me know your thoughts. Thank you for watching, and follow your freelancer goals and careers and aspirations, and move to the big city. Do it. Thank you. Bye for now.